It is Wednesday, my dudes, and all of you at home are watching an extremely special edition of The Sweat presented by Comcast Business, powering possibilities with the next generation 10G network. Woo! Hot diggity damn. I'm Emerson Lancia. This young lady is Jessie Cofield.
Yeah, okay, so coming up, we're going to have our usual preview of the MLB slate.
Thank
Plus,
God.
Mike Golick Jr. going to stop by for his weekly visit. We love that.
Just a really nice guy.
We love
really
him.
good dude to talk
Yeah,
to.
this is his favorite time of the week when he gets to be on our show.
Yep, he hates
we're
it.
also diving deep into this week's Travelers Championship with the help of our friends from Comcast Business.
Yeah.
So let's take a gander at the Comcast
Look at
Business
this thing.
Core Top 10, okay? It emphasizes player performance by rewarding the top 10 players in the FedEx Cup standings at the end of the FedEx Cup regular season. So right now, you are looking at the current standings heading into this weekend's Travelers Championship.
I can confirm that 10 dudes on your screen right now, very good at rolling a good meatball, mashing piss missiles, and tossing darts. Let's get the DFS 411 on America's tournament, the Travelers Championship, with DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich, RotoWire senior golf writer Len Huckberg. We have a handful of players here, gentlemen, on the board with salaries north of 10K. So I'm talking Scheffler, McIlroy, Rahm, Xander, the defending champ, and Patrick Cantlay, all finishing, by the way, in the top 15 at the U.S. Open at LA Country Club last weekend. Which one are you spending up for, Jeff?
I'll take the chalky play. I'll go with Patrick Cantlay here. Shush. You get Patrick Cantlay on a little short course like the Travelers. The pressure's off. He's a fantastic wedge player. That's his bread and butter. Where have we seen him absolutely go nuts? RBC Heritage, Hilton Head, Shriners, TPC, Sutherland. Cantlay, the one thing I really do like about what he did last week, his putter finally woke up. This guy's actually been striking it well all season, but the putter just hasn't really done much for him. That's why he couldn't catch Spieth and Matthew Fitzpatrick at the RBC Heritage, and why he just hasn't had a win yet. But, I mean, he putted extremely well last week, and he likes this course. Shot a 60 here in 2011, his first time around it. I would not be shocked if Patrick Cantlay picked up his first win this week. You know, the odds are one thing, but for DFS, he's only 10-2. He just makes so much sense. He can use him in stars and scrubs builds, balance builds, whatever. I'll go with Cantlay.
All right, Len, but similar to Rory McIlroy, Cantlay, big pile of steady finishes at TPC River Highlands, but no top 10s.
Yeah, he doesn't do many top 10s in the majors. He doesn't do top 10s here at
It's time to
River
give
Highlands,
up on him.
But he does play very well here. It's another loaded field. It's very hard to pick one or two of these guys. This is the last designated event, by the way. We won't have this problem going forward. But Scheffler is there every week. He doesn't win like Cantlay, but he's finishing in the top 5 every week of this tournament, every week of this PGA Tour season, 5 in a row now. And I expect him to be there again. Putting will be an issue. Putting really important at River Highlands. One thing, I think Jon Rahm is getting a little bit a shade here. He's not really in the conversation as much as some of the other guys. You know, he had a bad PGA 50th, but then he went 16th the next week, and then 10th last week at the U.S. Open. I think Jon Rahm should not be discounted this week.
All right, Tommy Fleetwood.
Oh, no.
Jeff.
Speaking of guys who don't win.
Jeff.
Jeff,
Well,
this
hey.
is your guy.
Is this the week he takes home his first PGA win? I mean, the man's coming off a top 5 at the U.S. Open. Sure to be a popular play at 9,300 this week. But it sounds like you don't think so, Jeff.
Oh, Jeff.
Look, if I come out here and say he's going to win, he's going to do something crazy, like shoot 59 on Sunday and finish second or something. So, I mean, look, I love Tommy Fleetwood. I think people realize that by now. He's playing fantastic, but no, I don't think this is going to be it for him. I really don't. You know, maybe when we get into those links tournaments later in July, that might be a good spot for Tommy Fleetwood. But for DFS this week at 9,300, you know, you got a guy sitting. You actually have 2 players sitting above him who I just really like, and I like both their chances this week. Colin Morikawa at 9,500, and even Tony Finau at 97. I'm more akin to Morikawa though. Coming off the back spasm issue at the Memorial, didn't show any signs of rust at the U.S. Open. Solid finish. And again, another player who if you look at where he's putted well this year, it hasn't been often, but it's been on POA greens. And Travelers, it's one thing that it really shares in common with some of those West Coast venues, Pebble Beach, Farmers. That's where Morikawa gained strokes putting this season. And it really wouldn't shock me if he rode a little bit of momentum from the U.S. Open and came in here and just had a really, really good week. I think all things considered, when Tommy Fleetwood and Colin Morikawa are the same price or close, you should probably lean Morikawa when Morikawa is playing well, and he is right now. So I'd prefer him over Fleetwood. But hey, my heart would definitely not break if Tommy Fleetwood won this week. It would be fantastic.
Len,
there he is.
Where are you leaning when it comes to Tommy Fleetwood?
Allow me to say what Jeff probably really wanted to say, but keeps getting burned every week by Tommy Fleetwood, so you can't really.
Yeah, I saw the text that Jeff sent you. You tweeted it out yesterday. He has not been very supportive of you, Len.
No, just mean. But Tommy Fleetwood is a great play this week, and only $9,300. I mean, closer to 9 than to 10. Jeff did say some of the things. He has been playing great. He's really playing better than he has since pre-pandemic. He went into a little bit of a funk in 2021 and sort of making his way out of it. This is the best he's played in years. And yeah, the 63 on Sunday did not have the bright lights of NBC on him. He teed off at like 4 a.m. or something and made his way up the leaderboard. But he's been great every week. He was at a top 20 at the PGA. He was 5th in a loaded field at the Wells Fargo, top 20 at the RBC Heritage. You look at his stats, he's good everywhere, even putting a lot better than Colin Morikawa, which will matter a lot this week. I like Tommy Fleetwood a lot more than Colin Morikawa this week.
Okay.
Hey, Len, let's discuss a couple dudes coming off top 10 finishes at LA Country Club there in your backyard. Minwoo Lee, Harris English, where do they rank on your list of guys in the 7K department?
Yeah, Minwoo Lee is really starting to be a good player. Top 50, okay, so he is a good player, and he's only 24 years old. But he was right there at the Players. He couldn't, handle the bright lights of the final pairing against Scottie Scheffler, but he did finish 6th, and he was 5th here, and he had a top 20 at the PGA. I think I'm not big on him this week. He doesn't seem to put too many good weeks together, and he has a bunch of bad weeks. That's a young player. That's inconsistent. That will change in time. So I do like him, not this week. Harris English, great week last week. He's really back to where he was pre-hip surgery. He won this tournament 2 years ago. He was 19th here last year in just his 3rd event back from hip surgery, and he was not really in form. So I do like him a lot. And a couple other guys, great ball strikers up in the upper 7s, Russell Henley and Keegan Bradley. Bradley's not been great this year, but he does have an affinity for the Northeast courses.
And Jeff, there is a thing for like non-superstars, like after contending in a major, like the week after, tends to be a stay away spot.
I mean, it does and it doesn't. Harris English won this event in 2021. He finished 3rd at the U.S. Open and then came here and just won. And Ches Reavie actually did something similar in 2020. But I think the one difference between those guys and Minwoo Lee is those two players are veterans. And this, to me, this is a real veterans track. I mean, some of the names, Ches Reavie, Kevin Streelman. I mean, these are late 30s guys. They've played here a bunch. Minwoo Lee is seeing this course for the first time. It's a short, tricky little par 70. It's not really a spot where he's going to be able to take advantage of his distance off the tee, have wide, expansive fairways. It's a course where you go around a couple times and you figure out how to play it, and then you can go low. So Minwoo Lee, to me, is probably a good stay away. I think Harris English is probably going to be fine. You worry a little bit if the putter regresses, but he's actually been striking it well too, so I don't really see any problem going to Harris English. There's a couple other players in this range, though. Len mentioned it's really strong this week. I think going back to Adam Scott at 7,900 is absolutely fine. Another really strong POA putter. Last 50 rounds on POA greens, he's 2nd in strokes gained putting. Adam Scott's shot 63 twice at the Byron a couple events ago. I mean, he's been in pretty good form. I think this is kind of the kind of track where you want to target a veteran like Scott anyways, much like Justin Rose, who won at Pebble Beach. So stacked range, I would prefer English over Minwoo Lee here, but Henley, Scott, and even going down, guys like Steven Yager at 7,500, they're all in play too.
Speaking of going down, who's your favorite value of the week, Jeff?
Again, it's a strong field. It's not quite the major championship field that we had last week, and the pricing's not quite as soft, but there are some players under 7K. Mark Hubbard is absolutely smashing it right now. This is a really, really solid player 6,900. He's got a bunch of top 20s over his last 5 or 6 starts, 6 at the RBC Canadian Open. And I like the fact that Hubbard is doing this. He's not just putting well. I mean, this is a guy who's gaining 4 or 5 strokes, and he's done it in some elite fields. So it's not just that he's coming to these weaker fields and he's like playing okay against, just the bottom tier of the PGA. He's T30 at the Memorial, and he gained a bunch of strokes on approach there. T9 at the Charles Schwab, another elevated event. And he's played this event a lot. He's made the cut here a lot as well. Another good West Coast player. I think Mark Hubbard at 6,900, really hard to beat for value this week.
All right, Len, when you're looking at value, whose name comes to mind here?
Yeah, it was going to be Mark Hubbard. It is Mark Hubbard, and he has played the tournament a lot. And Jeff made a great point earlier that this is a course where you need to play it a bunch, or it helps to play it a bunch. It's one of those shorter tracks. Play the angles, not just hit it as far as you can. Mark Hubbard has played this tournament 5 times. He has not missed a cut. He finished 13th, I think, 2 years ago. Just really a good player. Carson Young, all the way down at 6,500, has had a number of good finishes this year. He qualified for the U.S. Open, which was not easy, out of the Dallas qualifier, I believe. He didn't make the cut at the U.S. Open, but that doesn't bother me. The fact that he's playing well this year and got out of that group there to get into the field was really impressive. He's only $6,500.
Len, your favorite DFS play for the Travelers Championship, who is it? Be honest with me.
I'm going to be honest with you. It's really Tommy Fleetwood. And, at $9,300, we can all say it together. He doesn't have to win, which is a good thing because he probably won't win. But he really is. His short game is spectacular. He's one of the best scramblers on tour. Putting was always what held him back. He's now top 25 in putting. I just like him a lot this week, coming off 2 spectacular weeks.
You've been doing way too many segments with Jeff Ulrich. Ulrich, who's your favorite DFS play, bud?
Finally done it. I finally brainwashed Len. My goal is complete here. I'm going to go down the board. I'm going to go with the guys under the radar, I think, this week in Adam Scott. I really do like him. Veteran track, a veteran who's looking for a win. I think he follows up Justin Rose and Jason Day and finally picks up a win at some point in 2023. And I like him this week. 7,900, not going to be highly owned in a lot of the big tournaments on DraftKings.
Where was the Brian Harmon love? No Brian Harmon love? Okay, because it's Brian Harmon week, boys.
He's in my article. It's hard to ignore top 8 every year, but he has not played well this year, but maybe this week.
All right, yep, maybe.
All right, well, you two take a breather, okay, because we're going to take a sportsbook look at the Travelers coming up. But first, Mike Golick Jr. going to join the program as he does on Wednesdays to talk all things sports and stuff, including how he sees Bradley Beal fitting in with the Suns. All right, guys, you know the drill. You can check out the Gojo Show every weekday. Former Notre Dame lineman Mike Golick Jr.
He really is a
He
lineman.
lays it down. He's got a unique perspective. He talks about sports, pop culture.
Yeah.
He's got cool guests.
Really?
It's an awesome pod. You can grab it wherever you listen to your favorite pods, including Spotify, Apple, Google, the iHeartRadio app, blah, blah, blah.
Let's punch up that hairy face.
Because he's here!
Welcome to a special edition, Mike, of The Sweat, presented by Comcast Business, powering possibilities with the next generation of 10G network.
10G.
Good morning.
I know you meant possibilities, and I respect the sponsor a lot, but it sounded like you said postabilities.
Postabilities?
I feel like we're describing an Italian kitchen skill set in the draft leading up to the pasta.
All right, come here, Samir, because this is the reason I have pasta on my mind. Look at this, Mike.
Oh.
Look at this tweet that.
Or don't look at it. It's a cursed image.
No, it's not.
What is that?
So it's clearly hot dogs and some kind of pasta, SpaghettiOs, like jelly or Jello.
Why are you bringing that up?
Well, I don't know. The tweet is, if someone brings this to your cookout, what do you do, Mike?
You throw it in the trash.
Listen, you got to hear both sides. I think you got to give it a whirl. As someone that enjoys a good raw dog, there was nothing better as a kid than walking over to the fridge and picking out a raw hot dog and just snacking on it.
What?
I would like to hear it. You guys didn't eat raw hot dogs as
No!
kids?
I actually, during the pandemic, I hit a pretty low point, and I was eating a lot of cold hot dogs as
I
snacks.
didn't know you could eat hot dogs raw.
Yes, dude,
Well,
they're cooked.
it's not technically raw because they've all been cooked or whatever to get to that point in the package anyway. Cold, like Emerson said, is probably the operative term.
Okay. Oh.
Anywho, how
Wait,
many?
Quick shout out to the Schitt's Creek
Yes,
shirt.
yes, my wife would love that. Huge Schitt's Creek fan.
Yeah.
You look good.
I didn't even know we could say the name of the show. I used to work for Mickey Mouse, so I was always really scared to say the name of the show on air right now.
I mean,
but I do proudly support Rose Apothecary, so that much we can all agree on.
Right?
Yeah.
Great lotions and soaps
Yep.
and all sorts of oils and moisturizers. You can do. You can,
best.
Yeah.
better than
It's a tax write-off. It's a tax write-off, David.
Okay, so speaking of glizzies, how many did you crush at LA Country Club for the U.S. Open?
You know what? I didn't get to have a glizzy at LACC. Surprise, surprise. A place that walked out of this week somehow with such a low Q rating amongst everyone involved. They managed to unite golf. Think about where we've been with this sport and how wild it is that LACC performs so poorly in the eyes of tour professionals, fans of the game, people watching on TV, that they somehow got golfers to all agree on one thing. So no glizzies had there. There was a number of people hosting events around Los Angeles in honor of the Open being in town. I got to go to one at Top Golf Thursday night that week, and they had the bacon-wrapped glizzies that you usually can get outside of the Staples Center or outside of a event in downtown with one of those like food stands that's sitting on the curb. They had high-end glizzies wrapped in bacon there, so I absolutely pile drove a few of those.
I mean, Mike, a lot of the flack that the tournament was catching, besides what we were seeing on the course and guys going super low, coming hot out of the gates, was like the atmosphere there. I guess some of the golfers were talking about, and I think it was Matthew Fitzpatrick to be specific, talking about how the atmosphere wasn't that rowdy. He wanted it to be a little more loud. He wanted fans to bring a little bit more energy. What was it like out there for you?
Well, LA Country Club, by the way, is like a very old school, like they don't let in any Hollywood types.
Yeah.
Like they're like very buttoned up. You have to have like a special last name to get in there.
Yeah, like lots.
Yeah.
No.
It's a weird amalgamation of all the parts of golf that I think most people now are most turned off by, right? Or I should say a symbol of what golf's problems have traditionally been. This has traditionally been a sport that a lot of people look like had walls up and had gates that were to be kept as far as who could be in and how involved they are. It's coming at a time where I think golf's more accessible than it's ever been. You've seen more and more people from more and more demographics trying to convince others, hey, golf can be a place for you here. And so having the U.S. Open be at a place that quite literally put walls up this week, in this case, on who could be there watching. So much of it felt corporate. And listen, I was there with a friend who had corporate tickets. Like I was, in theory, part of exactly what people are describing here. And you're right, relative to what this is supposed to be, Emerson, it was absolutely a letdown. And look no further than what we got at the very end of this. As Wyndham Clark's getting ready to putt on 18 to seal this, they make the move to allow everyone to circle up around the green to try and manufacture an environment that they had not allowed to happen all week. It was too little too late. It was stepdad at Christmas energy. Yeah, I haven't been around for the rest of the year, but here's a great gift at the end to hopefully soften the blow in a way that to me seemed pretty transparent. So yeah, I'd say relative to what we're used to for what's supposed to be golf's U.S. National Championship, the environment certainly was lacking a bit.
So can I expect more of that environment, more of the crazy hoopla at the Travelers bars when I'm there on Saturday with Howie. You've spent a lot of time in Connecticut in your life.
Brother, here's a wild fact for you. I have now lived in Los Angeles count them 1 year.
Okay.
And have now been to a U.S. Open, a golf major at Los Angeles Country Club.
Great.
I lived in Connecticut for a quarter century and went to not a single traveler.
I hate you.
Not a one.
I hate you so much.
I did not go down there. We don't even have, Emerson, it's not like we have much in Connecticut. We've got the Hartford Yard Goats, who have AA baseball's #1 ballpark in the nation now 3 years in a row. And then cider mills.
Yeah. Oh, what about pizza?
Stuff down by the shore, pizza in New Haven. But other than
Yeah.
that, we don't have a lot of stuff to do. So the fact that I didn't do this is appalling.
Yeah, it is pretty appalling.
Man.
All right, let's switch gears.
I mean,
to,
that's fine. Howard is not upset with you. He's a born and raised Connecticut guy. He's slacking me now, and he's angry.
why
at
don't you
Mike.
just relax?
Okay.
For
I'm
one
a bad
moment.
Connecticut person.
Yeah.
Often.
For one moment, let's relax. Okay, so a story that did come out after your last appearance was Ja Morant getting that 25-game suspension from the NBA. How do we feel about this? Like, take the temperature here. Was it akin to what you thought it would be?
So I think one of the things that I recognize in hindsight, I still say, if your goal as Adam Silver was to not distract people from the finals by teasing the Ja Morant suspension the way that he did leading into the matchup between the Heat and the Nuggets, you failed at that because it came up as a part of the conversation. It was always going to be there once he decided to mention it. But if your goal as Adam Silver was to get to a number where most of us would kind of go, okay, that goal was accomplished. Because once we heard that, I had heard the number 25 batted around. I had heard 17 games batted around, which, by the way, as the NBA Players Association gets set to potentially appeal the suspension length, we could get down to that number. No, it accomplished getting to a point where this number was going to feel fine for me. And really, in all actuality, it's the beginning of the NBA's regular season. So how much do players or teams really care about it anyway? It felt like, hey, we've got to do something because you embarrassed us in public for the second time doing the thing you told us, yeah, I agree is bad and I'm not going to do anymore. But it's not actually going to meaningfully affect anything other than Ja Morant's pocketbook, since he's going to be missing game checks under the new contract that kickstarts for him this summer.
Yeah, and then there was Jack Jones of the Patriots, who slammed Ja Morant too for his gun video on Twitter, and he shows up to Logan International with 2 loaded guns too. It's like, you can't make this stuff up, Mike.
Yeah, it's awareness and common sense are both things that should be more common than they actually are. I think in general, though, it's interesting to consider the end game of all of this because I don't know. You hear all the leaked reports, too, about what Ja Morant's camp potentially thinks about this. I think Tim McMahon over at ESPN said that there was someone who was either currently or formerly with Ja Morant's camp, this game of telephone, that thinks the NBA is out to get him. And just, I guess in the midst of all this, my hope is that that's not actually the sentiment, because if that is the sentiment, nothing's going to change, and we're just going to be waiting for something like this string of events we've seen around Ja to just happen again and potentially take him off the court at best, or at worst, put him in a situation where he's physically in harm's way, which I think for a lot of people is what this boils down to. Is it's not about gun ownership or Second Amendment stuff. It's about behaving responsibly with something that's a deadly weapon and not wanting to see the worst possible outcome happen for Ja Morant, because him being away from the basketball court is nowhere near the worst possible outcome.
I totally agree with that. I also think it's one of those things where you just go, you're an NBA superstar, possibly the face of the league as a young guy.
Yeah, one of them.
But also, you just got to be smarter than that.
Yep.
You just got to use common sense.
You do, and Jesse, I think it's a good reminder that that's not going to mean the same thing to everybody.
Right.
We can all think being the face of the league is great. We can all think, oh man, I'd kill to be a player as talented as Ja Morant. But Ja Morant's been that his whole life. It may not feel as special to him. He may not share that perspective. Hell, we've seen through the lens of Nikola Jokic, not everyone even loves basketball as much as the people watching it. Not people love sports as much as the people watch it. The reality is, some people that make it this far are just great at a thing that's incredibly financially beneficial, but don't often love it enough to keep themselves out of trouble in the ways that we see pop up.
That's fair.
Ball is life? No, horses are. Horses.
That's
horses
been my
are
favorite
life.
sports story of the year when he was like, when is parade? And they were like, it's on Thursday, and he was like, no.
Man,
Like
the roller coaster of emotions, though, I just think that Nicolai, and not to get off too much of a tangent, I just don't think because that guy leaves as soon as the season's over and never watches basketball that he's not playing in, guy'd probably never seen a championship parade. Probably didn't know that it's his combination of his favorite things, chugging beers with his friends, and probably seeing a horse or two. I hope someone structuring the Denver parade put a couple of Clydesdales out in front just for Jokic, just to kind of meet him halfway on that. I didn't see images to back that up, but that's the hope I carry in my heart for him.
Man,
well, I hope Jokic is a little more prepared for tougher competition when it comes to going up against the Suns here, Mike, because they just pulled in Bradley Beal. Chris Paul has been shipped off. Phoenix making this move clearly with one goal in mind, and that's winning a title next season. How do you like Beal's fit in the desert? Because that's a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of guys who expect the ball in their hands.
Yeah, Q, there's only one ball season. One of my favorite sports topics of commentary. You know what? I don't get bogged down too much in the current NBA with positional fits. Yeah, the skill set's a bit redundant with what you've got on the roster, but we know being able to stagger scores, how you organize the lineup, that's something for the coach to figure out there. But the biggest concerns now are, what are you going to do with DeAndre Ayton? It seems like it's almost certain you're going to have to deal him to try and get some depth. And then really, this is a gamble on your greats being great. That was the gamble that they lost because of a lack of time under task. You brought Kevin Durant over late. You only had a couple of games of him actually with your team before the playoffs started because of injury. And then once you got to the postseason, the bottom line was, in their exit series, Kevin Durant did not look like Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you've got to hope that with the benefit of a full season with all these guys working together somehow evens out. You've got a guy in Bradley Beal who, like Chris Paul, who you let go, dealt with a whole bunch of injuries, hasn't played more than 60 games in a season since the 2018-2019 season. So the core of your roster outside of Devin Booker is one that is getting older and has dealt with injury problems in a way that have to be the looming fear for a team that just does not have a lot of depth to overcome that.
Like, if healthy, that trio of Booker, of Durant, and Beal, again, huge if, best trio in the NBA. Should easily be a top 5 offense.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, what other competition? Like, we're moving into an NBA time now where we're probably going to see fewer and fewer of these as all the new luxury tax thresholds kick in and the new CBA. So this is like one last attempt. Quite honestly, Emerson, it feels a lot like what we got in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And it's the same sort of formula where they're going to try and microwave the results. And again, if you get the best version of Kevin Durant specifically, because Devin Booker's young, working into his prime, I expect him to continue to be one of the best scorers in the league. But if you get Kevin Durant at his height, then the rest of this can all work. We saw that in Brooklyn, and you don't have someone as mercurial as Kyrie Irving that might potentially blow the whole thing up.
I was just going to say there's a better chance that this succeeds because there is no Kyrie Irving involved.
Obviously, that could be said for anything. All right, finally, Gojo Rose time. Who gets this week's honors?
Todd Graves, the CEO and founder of Raising Cane's, for setting a Guinness Book of World Records for most shots purchased in a round down at Rocco's at the College World Series over the weekend to help them shatter the record for Jell-O shots sold at the competition there. I don't know if you guys have seen this or have been watching the College World Series, but every year Rocco's, which is an establishment across the street from the College World Series, has a Jell-O shot board, a contest amongst the fans of the teams that are in attendance to see who can consume the most. The money goes towards a local food bank in the area to try and help give back. And the most recent record holder was Ole Miss with about 18,000 Jell-O shots purchased. And so Todd Graves, who Raising Cane's was a company founded in the LSU Business School, it is of Louisiana, came in and bought 6,000 to push them over the hump. But guys, if you think that's an affront to competition, rest assured they are now nearing a number that would break the record on its own without Scott's contribution. So LSU built different in the Jell-O shot and drinking contest, and Todd Graves helping push this thing over the goal line.
Mike, next time you're here in the Boston office, by the way, Raising Cane's just opened up like 2 blocks down the road. What's the main drag there? I can't even remember it. Boylston?
Boylston Street.
I'm excited for it.
Chestnut. I honestly, Emerson, I will go there with you and put a straw in cane sauce and drink it. It is that good.
I will videotape that.
And I will watch and take part.
Yeah, I know you will. All right, cool.
All right, thanks, Mike. We love you. Mean it. We'll see you next week here on The Sweat, dude. Coming up, we will dive into tonight's baseball slate right after Julian Edlow catches up with Jeff Goodman on the Unreasonable Odds podcast produced by Samir Daouk.
All right, it's NBA draft season. I'm Julian Edlow, and we're here with Jeff Goodman from Stadium. Jeff, thanks for joining us at DraftKings.
Always, man, always. This is kind of a rite of passage for us now, right? Every year before the draft, we get together and try to figure out the unknown, which is what the NBA draft is.
Let's talk Scoot Henderson because, like, ceiling-wise, the comp I've been giving him, I think it's a lot of like Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook, super athletic point guard, not the greatest shooter. There's nothing wrong. Both of those guys won MVPs, so I'm not saying there's anything wrong there. It's just I would go with Miller, particularly if I'm Charlotte. But you can give me your comp and your feel for Scoot Henderson, and then also if we're doing our mock draft here and we're saying it's Wembanyama, Miller. Any chance that Scoot doesn't go 3? Because I think even if Portland doesn't move out, Scoot's so far ahead of whoever is 4 in this class, you have to take that player and figure it out, right?
Yeah, and your comp is kind of what I got a couple of years ago from Jason Hart, who's coached him for 2 years in the G League, which is Derrick Rose. Big, strong, athletic guard, got a gear to him, super explosive, doesn't shoot it very well. So I think that makes sense. And yeah, if you're Portland, listen, you got a bunch of good young guards. Do you need another? Maybe not. But what Scoot could do is allow you to really trade Dame, right? You've got Anthony Simons, you got Shaedon Sharpe, who I still love. I love Shaedon.
I do too.
So I think you got those 3 guys you can build around, and you wait it out with Dame, right? You wait it out and get the right offer, and eventually he's going to want to trade, and then you're trading from a kind of a position of strength. Portland needs bigs, but they're not going to reach on this one, and there's nobody else that makes sense over Scoot, whether Portland keeps it or even if they trade it. I just don't know. Again, I don't think anybody else can really jump Scoot for the number 3 pick.
Yeah, if it's a trade and Miller's gone too, then it's absolutely for Scoot. Just talking trades real quick. Any feel for you on what type of trade, if let's say Portland keeps Lillard, if they were going to move the 3rd pick, any feel for who that may be? Like, you got an Orlando that has 6 and 11, they could move up. I just don't know exactly what the market for the 3rd pick is going to be.
Well, they're going to want a player now in the front court who can help them. That's the biggest thing for Portland that I'm hearing, that, again, they've got their guards, right? If you're trading 3 and you're keeping Dame, you're probably going to have to move off maybe 3. If you move off of one of the other guards, you got to get something in the front court now if you're Portland. They've been missing that for years.
All right, let's welcome in DraftKings contributors Tanner Kern and Gary Thorne and RotoWire's Eric Halterman. Gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of The Sweat presented by Comcast Business, powering possibilities with the next generation 10G network. And we're talking about today's MLB slate, obviously. Plenty of early games on the board today. Starting with the O's and Rays and Gary's Blue Jays at the Marlins.
All right,
let's
Garion.
go. Garion, what's your favorite bet on an early game here?
I talked about this last night on the slate, actually, and I'm just going to keep doing it. When you can get the Orioles on the money line at plus money, even if it's against the Tampa Bay Rays, it's just pretty enticing. And I think they have the pitching matchup advantage today. Tyler Wells going up against Taj Bradley. Tyler Wells, he's starting to catch up to some of his ERA estimators. There was a pretty wide gap in some of those numbers earlier this season, but he's been absolutely fantastic in his last 7 starts. He's got a 31.1% strikeout rate. His whip is below 1 in that span of time. Baltimore is 10-4 when Tyler Wells starts a game this season. The Orioles also have the 4th highest winning percentage when they are an underdog in all of baseball in 2023. Again, the Rays are fantastic. Taj Bradley's one of the best pitching prospects in all of baseball, but at plus 120, I'm just really enticed anytime I can get the Orioles as an underdog.
All right, Eric, what do you think? Looking at these early games, what is the bet that you're going to be rolling with?
Yeah, I think a lot of bets in the Diamondbacks at Brewers game seem mispriced to me on the Diamondbacks side. I like the money line for the Diamondbacks minus 150, might like the run line plus 110, might even like Zach Gallen to get a win at plus 135. I guess that's technically a player prop, but it gets at the same idea. Zach Gallen versus Julio Teheran is just much more of a mismatch than those odds suggested is. Gallen has been one of the better pitchers in the league this season, 2.96 ERA, well supported by a strong strikeout rate, 27%, and just a 5% walk rate. And he's facing a Brewers lineup that ranks 28th in WRC Plus as a team on the season. And in the last 30 days, they're all the way down in 30th. So he's facing the weakest lineup in the league that will be supporting Julio Teheran, who has a 1.78 ERA, but it doesn't look remotely deserved. All the ERA estimators have him more in the mid-fours kind of range. He just doesn't strike anybody out. This is somebody who's been basically out of the league for the last couple seasons. Good for him for having a nice run, but I don't think he's going to stick with Zach Gallen here. I think eventually the hits are going to start to fall, and Tehran's ERA is going to rise by multiple runs, possibly even all at once here.
All right, Tanner, what's the play here on an early game?
So I like the Cubs on the money line, but I'm going to take a little pivot here, and I'm going to go with Kyle Hendricks to record a win for plus 205. You really can't beat it for the value. Has a 1.93 ERA in 2 starts on the road this season. Opponents are batting just 122 on him when he is the visitor. And when you look at it, a lot of that is because of an 8-inning shutout against the Giants on June 10th. But still, he's pitched really good overall this season. Doesn't matter what ballpark he's in. He's got a 2.86 ERA. He's got a whip just over 1. And for plus 205 with the value here, it's hard to beat, especially against the Pirates team that hasn't won in 8 games. They also have been shut out in 3 of their past 4 games. They just simply haven't looked the part. Now, the second part of this for him to pick up a win today is obviously for him to leave the game with a lead. And I think it's very possible with Rich Hill on the bump. He's given up 17 earned runs in his past 5 starts. I like the Cubs offense to stay hot. Big win yesterday and the day before. And for Kyle Hendricks to pick up the win with a strong performance.
Hey, Eric, a fun game to watch tonight. It's definitely going to be the Battle of LA. We got Shohei Ohtani taking the mound. What's a game tonight that could be fun, though, to add to your betting card?
Yeah, that might be the one that I'm watching, but the most interesting bet that I've found for tonight is Rangers minus 110 at the White Sox. That's Martin Perez versus Michael Kopech in that one. And a lot of this is about me not fully trusting this recent run from Michael Kopech. He's got a 1.77 ERA in his last 6 starts, but the lineups he faced were quite weak in that stretch. The Royals, the Guardians, the Angels, the Tigers, the Marlins, and the Mariners. Now, the Angels are a pretty good lineup, and they scored 4 runs off of him. And the Mariners, in his last start, didn't score a lot, but he walked, I think, 6 guys against just 4 strikeouts. So there's a sign that maybe this run is ending. And the Rangers have not a terrible lineup like some of the ones that he's been beating up on. They have an excellent lineup. They're second in Team WRC Plus on the season with a mark of 121. On the other side, I don't trust Martin Perez. I wouldn't pretend to be a big Martin Perez fan, but he's facing a White Sox lineup that has been one of the worst in the league all season. So I'm going to bet on Kopech coming back down to earth here against one of the best lineups in the league and take the Rangers at minus 110.
All right, Tanner, what do you like here? Sox are streaking in Minnesota.
Yeah, so you're going to like this play here. It might be a little against the grain, but I'm going to go with the Oakland A's plus 1.5 against the Guardians here. I don't love it, but considering how hot they've been on the run line, it's worth taking a chance here. I saw a tweet from our guy Greg Peterson over at VSiN the other day. The A's are 12-2 on the run line in their past 14 games, and their run line value is always really good because they're not that good of a baseball team. You're getting it for minus 135 tonight. Many times you can get it for plus money, especially at the beginning of this run line streak. Paul Blackburn's going to pitch for Oakland. He's been one of their best guys this season. 3.48 ERA with a 1.35 whip in 20 innings of work. He's shown really good location, and he's also limited home runs. Not that the Guardians are going to hit a lot of them tonight, but I still like him to be good. Gavin Williams going to make his big league debut for Cleveland. He's been very good in AAA, but I think Oakland is just a little better than a AAA roster. I know that's not saying much, but hopefully they can deliver a little bit here and welcome him to the big leagues. For the streak, 12-2 in their past 14 games on the run line, it's hard to go against them, especially when they're facing a pitcher making his debut.
Oakland has lost 6 in a row now after its 7-game win streak, Care Bear. What do you like?
Yeah, let's go back to that Rangers-White Sox game. Feel pretty similar to this as Eric does, but I do have a different bet. I'm just going to bet the game total here. It's 9.5. I like the over because I'm a little worried about just backing Martin Perez, if I'm being perfectly honest. The White Sox, their lineup has been incredibly underwhelming so far this season. There's no doubt about that, but they have been specifically terrible against right-handed pitching. They have an 82 WRC plus against righties. They have a 103 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. So they have been at their best within that particular split. Perez has had some big blow-ups in his last couple of starts. He's got a 6.18 ERA across his last 9 starts. It just hasn't been going all that well for Martin Perez. And Kopech, he's been good lately, but as Eric mentioned, some pretty easy competition in that stretch. I trust the Rangers to score runs, so I just think there's going to be some crooked numbers on the scoreboard for both teams tonight. I'll take the over 9.5.
All right, let's talk player props here. Tanner, what you going with?
Mike Trout over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs, a little juiced at -130, but it's definitely worth taking here. The Dodgers are going to throw Michael Grove most likely tonight, and he's going to give up runs. Got an 8.1 ERA in 30 innings on the mound this season, 27 earned runs over 30 innings. That's terrible. So I like Trout to get the best of him tonight. Trout's gone over this total in 3 of his past 5 games. And the best part about this matchup is that all of his power has come off righties this season. 13 of his 15 homers have come off right-handed pitching. He also has a OPS that's nearly 200 points higher off righties compared to lefties. Now, knowing that Michael Grove is not the best pitcher in the world and knowing that Trout's one of the best players in the world, I like this matchup a lot.
All right, Gary, and which player prop has caught your eye?
Let's go Garrett Whitlock over 15.5 outs recorded. I just think he's been sneaky good this season. Obviously hasn't been the picture of health, but he's looking really good right now. He's pitched into the 7th inning in each of his last 2 starts. Really, the only issues Whitlock has had this season is facing the Tampa Bay Rays, and I think that's a pretty understandable thing to struggle with in 2023. The Twins have also just not been a good lineup. In the month of June, they have just an 87 WRC plus. They have a 29% strikeout rate. It just really does seem like Whitlock can work deep into this game. And at -110 to do something he has done in each of his last 2 starts against an underwhelming offense, I think that's some pretty good value.
All right, player prop, Eric, what are you rolling with?
Yeah, once again, Gary and I are thinking similarly. I'm also going to be on Garrett Whitlock, although I'm going to go with his over 5.5 strikeouts. That's at -120, not an amazing payout, and especially when you consider the Whitlock only a 21% strikeout rate this year. But the real appeal here is that it's against the Twins. The Twins, as a team, struck out 30% of the time over the last 30 days. That's easily the worst in the league. They've been the worst in the league for the whole season, sitting in around 27%, but it's been particularly bad lately. Joey Gallo's on this team, and it doesn't end there. And assuming he's in the lineup, that's, 2 strikeouts towards this 5.5 already right there. Whitlock, again, well, he hasn't had a huge strikeout rate this season, just 21%. He's at 25.5% or 25.6% for his career, which is solidly above average, admittedly with some time in relief. But the point is he can put hitters away. He's got 6 and 7 strikeouts in his last 2 starts, which would both hit the over here. So this is a guy who's trending in the right direction against a lineup that really loves to whiff. So I like this 5.5 here.
Gary, and question for you, and let's go over to the DFS side. Who should most certainly, definitely land in lineups tonight on DraftKings?
So I'm going to stack against Shohei Ohtani tonight. I think that's my number one strategy on this small slate. I mean, it's a 6-gamer, so you do have to take some chances. But look, Ohtani's been incredible with the bat the last couple of weeks. No one is denying that. But that's sort of been hiding the fact he has not pitched well in a couple of months now. He's got a 4.89 FIP going back to April 27th. In that span of time, he's also giving up 2.5 home runs per 9 to opposing left-handed batters. Freddie Freeman's the best left-handed hitter on the face of the earth, not named Shohei Ohtani. I think Freeman's just in a really nice spot tonight. He's also 6'1", and while that's generally a detriment to be that expensive, because he's so expensive and because he's going up against Shohei Ohtani, such a public pitcher name, I don't think anyone's going to be using Freddie Freeman tonight, even though this is a 6-game slate. So I like Freddie Freeman anytime you can get him as a variance play. And again, Ohtani just hasn't been that good at pitching in the last couple months.
Eric, we just heard Garion's strategy. What's yours tonight?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Gavin Williams as one of my pitchers. He's going against the Oakland Athletics, and he is one of the cheapest starters on the board at 5,700. I know that Tanner mentioned earlier that Oakland is better than a AAA lineup. True, but not by a lot. They are one of the worst lineups in the league. It's an excellent place to make your first start. And Gavin Williams, I believe, is going to be a quite productive pitcher for the Guardians this season. There's some risk with him. As there is with any rookie, and his walks did tick up a bit at the AAA level. In 9 starts, he walked 11.5% of opposing batters, but he also struck out a full third of the batters he faced, which is in line with the strikeout rates at every stop in the minors. He's got good stuff. He's been blowing away minor league hitters, and he's facing a lineup that isn't all that much better than minor league hitters. I'll take him happily as one of the cheapest starters on the board here, even if we've never seen a major league pitch from him before.
Tanner, give us a dude you love in DFS tonight.
I love Corey Seager. He came through for me prop-wise last night. Unfortunately, the Texas Rangers couldn't come through for me money line-wise. But anyways, talking DFS right now, love him to be dominant tonight. He's batting .367 with 10 homers and an OPS over 1,000. He's got 5 doubles in his past 5 games and coming off a 5 RBI performance. He's as locked in at the plate as you're going to find out of any big league hitter. Going against Michael Kopech, who we've all talked about on this show, we think he's going to regress back towards the mean a little bit tonight. 3-5 with an ERA just under 4, 1.27 whip there. I don't like him to be that good tonight. I like the Rangers to bounce back, especially after a tough loss last night and the way they lost it with a bad call and just not being able to respond multiple times. I think the Rangers come out and hit. There's going to be opportunities for Seager to drive runners in tonight, and he's also going to perform as well.
Yeah, what a weird way to end that game.
Yeah. All right, good stuff, gentlemen. Appreciate it. You are free to go. Coming up, Len and Jeff are back, baby. They are back to give a betting preview of the Travelers Championship. Should Scotty Scheffler be the favorite? I mean, he is the defending champ. More to come.
Welcome back, everybody, to a special edition of The Sweat. It's presented by Comcast Business, powering possibilities with the next generation 10G network. That's Jeff Ulrich. That's Len Hochberg. They are back, but we're going to get their beautiful faces off the screen for just a moment because we need to take another look at the Comcast Business Tour Top 10, which emphasizes player performance by rewarding the top 10 players in the FedEx Cup standings at the end of the FedEx Cup regular season. Current standings right now, okay, not a shocker because I see the man number 2 on that board, Scotty Scheffler,
not the defending champ of the Travelers.
Is that right?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. Because he is the favorite this weekend at +600. So, Len, I believe in our first DFS segment, you said you liked him at a handful of dudes who are in that like 10K department. But in terms of sports betting, +600. I don't know. Thoughts here? Way to navigate this?
Yeah, +600. He surprised me. He was similar price last week at the Open. I mean, he's been coming close every week, but he hasn't been winning. And of course, DFS is different from the betting market. And while I do like him as a DFS play, because I think he can return on your investment there, obviously at 6-1, he's got to win, and there's not even a strong return even there. So I'm a little bit surprised. He's so much clear of the other top guys in the field. No one else single digits, and he is almost at 5-1. So it doesn't seem like a prudent play for me, even though I like him to do well again this week.
Jeff,
and maybe end up as the defending champion next year.
Okay,
Yeah,
there you go.
Did I just predict the future?
I think that's what you did. You took your
Okay.
big beefy crystal ball and
Yep.
you looked into it and you said, wow, I see the future.
I
Jeff
see the
Ulrich,
future.
I see the future. He's not going to be the defending champ because you know why? He has the handicap of not being able to make a putt outside 10 feet at any point, any tournament he plays in.
Yeah, pretty much. And also, you know, we're on a course where you need to putt. I mean, it's a tricky little par 70. And just look at the past first round leader. Mackenzie Hughes shot a 60 here in 2020. JT Poston shot a 62 here last year to open up. Like, you're going to see some weird names on the leaderboard this week, and that's fine. It's just the style of course it is, but it's not a spot where you want to pay plus 650 for a guy who's had real struggles on the greens. Scottie Scheffler's tee to green game still matters here. Of course it does. He's still going to get himself in position, but man, I mean, you know, the field this week is going to have a bit more of an advantage over guys like Scheffler and even Rory because the greens are easier to hit, the fairways are easier to hit. It's just a putting contest. So Scheffler at plus 650, if you've been betting him at this number, I mean, you need to win soon. But for me, this is not a spot where I would be jumping on him right now.
All right, Jeff, what are some guys trending in the right direction that you can get like good odds on this week, you think?
Yeah, again, if we're looking for a top player who's putter, you know, we're looking to flip here. I mean, why not go down and take plus 2,200 on Colin Morikawa? Again, you know, he's another player. Yes, he struggled with that club at points this season, but he gained over 7 strokes ball striking last week. He was top 15. And again, I brought this up in the first segment, but I mean, Colin Morikawa has tended to putt well on POA greens and the West Coast. It's similar style to what we see this week. We've seen a lot of West Coast winners at the Travelers. Dustin Johnson, Ches Reavie. These are just players, Kevin Streelman. These are players who tend to pop up on the West Coast, kind of where Colin Morikawa has done some of his best work, TPC Harding Park. So really like the odds there on Colin Morikawa if you're going to go down. And I'll say this, I do not mind taking a shot with Cameron Young this week. If anyone's going to be motivated by seeing a guy like Wyndham Clark break through for a major there, you've got to think it's Cameron Young. Cameron Young was beating Wyndham Clark handily in every single event those two started last season. And now he sees Wyndham Clark not just win once, but twice, and one of them's a major. I think Cameron Young could come in just a little extra motivation after seeing that. He's plus 5,000. Certainly a player who can get hot at any time.
All right, Len, if you're looking down the board here, who do you like?
Yeah, what strikes me is that John Rahm is almost double the odds of Scottie Scheffler. Scheffler probably should be the favorite a little bit over Rahm, but if you're thinking of playing Scottie Scheffler at 6 or 6.5 to 1, you can get John Rahm at 12 to 1, who is a better putter. And yeah, he's not there every week, but he has been getting better the last few weeks. He went from 50th at the PGA to 16th the next week and 10th last week. I just think that's a much more prudent play. And yeah, Tommy Fleetwood 35 to 1. I do think he is in the mix this week.
Hey, Len, how about some top 10, top 20 bets you may like? Tom Kim plus 330. That looks tasty for a top 10.
He does. And we talked about Harris English earlier, and Harris English is plus 550 for a top 10. He won the tournament a couple of years ago. He's actually playing near to where he was when he won a couple of years ago. He had surgery last year. He had a time to, his game dipped a little bit as he recovered. Plus 550 seems like a very nice price for a top 10 for someone who could really challenge for the title. And Emiliano Grillo at plus 900 for a top 10. He's putting much better this year. That's why he won a few weeks back. He also was top 10 at the RBC Heritage, a short course, a week after a major with a loaded field. That seems like a very nice price. And, for a top 20, Keegan Bradley has really been up and down this year. His approach play has not been great. He's been up and down in this tournament, but he did finish second to Ches Reavie a few years back. You can get him for a top 20 plus 300.
Jeff, who do you like for a top 10, maybe finishing on that first page of the leaderboard come Sunday, or top 20?
I mean, this is definitely an event. Like I mentioned off the top, you can go deep because some guys here are just going to get hot with their putter, and they're going to be at deeper odds because these are players who, if this was a tougher course, you may not expect to compete. But I mentioned Adam Scott off the top, plus 650. I'm very comfortable with that. But let's go deeper. Let's go with Steven Yager at plus 900 for a top 10. This dude's top 25 in strokes gained tee to green in this field, in this elite field. I mean, tee to green. He is right up there in terms of last 50 rounds. Max Homa, Russell Henley, even Justin Thomas. I mean, this is a very, very solid player who week to week brings it. His putter just hasn't necessarily popped this year, and that's why he doesn't have a top 10 yet. But he's made 10 of 11 cuts, and his putter has started to come to life over the last few events. Again, 3 strokes on approach at the Memorial as well in his last start. I think Yager is the type of player here who's coming in off a week of rest, could easily just come in, find some rhythm on the greens and end up, inside the top 10. Again, plus 13,000 for an outright, I certainly like as well. But for a top 10 play, plus 900, absolutely like that. And if you want a real sicko play for a top 40 bet, Emerson, Russell Knox gained 4.9 strokes on approach in Canada.
You sicko.
If his putter just can be like less than terrible, Russell Knox can top 40, plus 450 for a top 40. On a defending champion here, won at the Travelers in 2016.
You kind of convinced me.
All right, Jeff, you got any sicko long shots worth mentioning this week?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, Steven Yager is definitely up there in terms of long shots. I mean, we're getting a nice price, plus 13,000. But another name who I just see drifting back here, and I don't really know why, but Christian Bezuidenhout is plus 20,000 for the outright market here. I mean, this is a player who's been gaining strokes putting and on approach every week, and he's played a few tougher courses, and he's been fine. But now he comes to an easier course where this is just going to be a putting contest. Bezuidenhout's not going to be stressed out off the tee here. The fairways are easy to hit. He's going to be able to get in rhythm because there's a ton of short irons and mid irons. If this guy's putter shows up, this price is going to look absolutely ridiculous on Sunday because all you have to do at this event is just get yourself inside the top 10 on Sunday and give yourself a chance to shoot 62, which is what a lot of people have done here to win this event. Bubba's done it a couple times. Bezuidenhout can do it. He absolutely can. He's a multiple-time winner on the European Tour. I just think this number at plus 20,000, way too big for an outright. Certainly a player who has the putting prowess anyways to do something this week.
Len, give us a long shot.
Yeah, I just don't see any of those guys winning the tournament. So my long shot is just for a top 30. I know not very daring, but Carson Young, I mentioned him earlier, just playing so well. He had top 25s at the 2 Texas tournaments, the Nelson and the Schwab. He was top 25 at the RBC Heritage in a loaded field. You can get 5-1 on a top 30, not even a top 25, but a top 30 on Carson Young. And Ches Reavie is plus 275 for a top 30, which seems, a bit of a gift, but based on his history here and his recent play.
Less than a minute to go in show, gentlemen. Len, your pick to win the Travelers Championship this weekend.
Yeah, Tommy Fleetwood, 35-1.
Wow.
At this tournament, the way he's playing, I think that is the right play to pick a winner. He's not as good as Scheffler, not as good as Rahm, but at 35-1, I really think he can do it.
Jeff Ulrich.
I think we're going to see someone far back. Again, this is a course that just lends itself to a little bit of long shots, in my opinion. I think Adam Scott is going to pick up a win and complete the trifecta of veteran winners with Rose Day, plus 8,000. So I'll go with the long shot for my winner.
Excellent work, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today on this special edition of The Sweat. The Normal Sweat will be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. That'll do it for us.
Okay. See everyone at 5 for the slate. Ciao.